Okay, so this is monetary policy, the big picture, monetary policy quickfire. Right, 2008 we had a financial crash. And if you can remember, in the financial crash, we had a massive negative output gap. Okay, so the interest rate fell to 0.5%. Right, you must talk about the transmission mechanisms. It's really easy. Low interest rates, consumption should go up, so it's cheaper to borrow money. Investment should go up, it's cheaper to borrow money. Tell this to the examiner. House prices will go up, it's cheaper to borrow money. There'll be a rise in inequality. And the key one, the technical part is interest rates will go down, hot money will therefore move abroad, therefore the supply curve will move to the right, therefore the exchange rate will fall. If the exchange rate falls, export prices fall, import prices go up, therefore that will lead to an increase in AD as well. So all of this, all these four actions together will lead to a rise in AD, which is the whole purpose of a fall in interest rates. Of course, there is a fear when import prices rise that can create cost push inflation. So you should be able to draw that short and aggregate supply curve moving to the left and therefore showing that you understand what cost push inflation is. However, maybe low interest rates because of a lack of confidence will not work. All right, next one on here is, okay, we've got it on here. We have a massive negative output gap. That is where actual GDP is less than potential GDP. That's the definition of it. Tell the examiner that. Low interest rate wasn't enough. So therefore we needed QE. And in 2009, we printed £360 billion worth of QE. You all know what QE is. We've done it loads of times. QE, bond price goes up, coupon stays the same. Therefore the yield goes down. Therefore the long-term rate of interest goes down. Therefore it's cheaper to buy a house. That will lead to a rise in AD. The banks have more cash. Therefore there'll be more lending, which leads to a rise in AD. And finally, the asset prices will go up, including bond prices as well as house prices. People feel wealthier, banks will have more money. If you think about it, bond prices are on the asset side. If they go up, they have more assets. So therefore, they can spend more money, people can spend more money, and that will lead to a rise in AD. So hence the banking system was saved. Okay, so we've done interest rates. They've also got on the syllabus QE, funding for lending and forward guidance. Okay, funding for lending. Lending, what is it? Right, it's getting money into the real economy. So if you borrow money from the bank, they will lend it out to you at a low rate of interest. Therefore, more people will take out loans because if the business cannot pay it back, the loan will be guaranteed by the Bank of England. It's just getting more money into the real economy. Forward guidance here is telling businesses, consumers that we're going to have low interest rates for a long period of time. Okay, if we increase AD because we have low interest rates, that has not stimulated the economy, but if we have low interest rates plus QE, then hopefully that will work, and it did to a degree. Although between the years 2011 and 2019, we did have low growth. I think we grew by about 1% a year, maybe slightly above that. However, asset prices were rising quickly because there was no point saving money in the banks because the interest rate was so low. So therefore, that then had the disadvantage of creating a speculative bubble. Okay, then COVID comes along, throws everything in the wrong sorts of ways. We had to keep the economy going, so therefore we used modern monetary financing. Right, this is different from QE because QE is buying bonds in the secondary market. This is when the Bank of England creates its own bonds, then it buys them and gives money to the government, which is then effectively you were printing money and giving people money to not work. Okay. So we then have to say that overall, in both instances, QE saved us from the banking crisis, low interest rates saved us also, and so did modern monetary financing. So therefore we can say that monetary policy had a significant impact on the economy and did a pretty good job. Remember, the objective of monetary policy is the stability of the financial system. Okay, it was saved by QE and price stability, and it kept demand at a reasonable level during COVID. However, right now we have inflation of 10.4% in 2023. We also have an output gap which is positive. A positive output gap means that demand is too high, which means that actual GDP is greater than potential GDP. And we could draw a diagram of that. It can be long run supply curve here, etc., etc. Unemployment is 3.7%. Now, if you can remember, we think the natural rate of unemployment is between 4 and 5%. So if unemployment is below this level, that will also add to wage push inflations. So plus, on top of all of this chaos, we've also got hits to the supply side of the economy. The over 50s are leaving the labour force. Sadly, not me. Low productivity, lack of capital investment, and supply side constraints, e.g. Brexit. So this has all created actually probably a movement of this a S curve inwards, which is, as I always say, the first time this has really happened in the UK economy over the last 50 odd years. Okay, so right now, to deal with this inflation, we decided to raise interest rates. And then you can also talk about the transmission going the opposite way. Consumption falls, more expensive to borrow money. Investment falls, more expensive to borrow money. And the S curve may also move inwards. It will also reduce house prices. So overall, a readjustment is needed. And remember, I haven't got it down on here, obviously. In the UK, 400% of GDP is personal debt. So if interest rates go up, that may push a lot of people over the edge. They get pushed over the edge, they can't pay back their loans, therefore advances go bad, therefore the Bank of England will also therefore suffer. Interest rates, hot money should therefore now come into the UK, the demand curve goes up, this makes the exchange rate go up, higher export prices, lower import prices, and this will then directly reduce cost push inflation. Okay, so this method is all about decreasing inflation. But how good is raising interest rates at decreasing inflation? So there is a lot of debate about this now. Okay, so how can we bring down inflation in the UK economy? If it's mainly cost push, right, like food prices and wage push, because we got unemployment below the natural rate of unemployment, and we've also got expectations of inflation now, so therefore people are asking for larger wage increases. The oil and gas prices has gone up. So we've got mainly cost push, but we've also got a bit of demand pull inflation as well. So we've got a positive output gap of 1.3%. So what can we do about it? Think about it. It's mainly supply side. Intervention is supply side. You know all this off by heart. Or we can have free market reform as well. Low corporation tax. That will attract FDI into the country and that will also increase aggregate supply. Or we can boost training and that will increase productivity. Or we can maybe keep interest rates at a reasonably high level, maybe not as high as they are now, and we maybe need an intervention supply side as regards food. Okay, so I just said, guys, come around here and it says in the UK, we produce 60% of our food. Well, imagine if we produce 100%, then that would help us in terms of self-sufficiency. We wouldn't need to import the food. Okay, so finally on here, is monetary policy now becoming the new fiscal policy? So we have modern monetary financing, which is used during COVID-19, £450 billion. Now, some people have said that this is an argument for having a universal basic income policy. However, right, this is when the bank creates its own bonds, buys them and passes the money on to the government. This is not quantitative easing, as I've already said, because we're buying bonds. Quantitative easing is buying bonds in the secondary market. So they buy them on the primary market. Okay, so in 2020, we had a negative output gap. So therefore, we could print money to increase aggregate demand. So it all worked. Concern is if you get a positive output gap and you print money, then you have to raise taxes to take demand out of the economy. Otherwise, we're going to get demand pull inflation. But it could be used for intervention supply side policy as well, this printing the money idea. Radical stuff, Professor Kelton, budget deficit myth. But UK right now also has supply side constraints. Okay, monetary policy, big picture, done.